In this video, I'm going to be refining some beeswax, which I've only just started processing. I need to get a whole stack more crud out of it, and for that, I need a finer filter. Step one is make sure there is water in my boiler. Step two, let's get the fire going. So this was an oil barrel got from my local fish and chip shop, who've looked after me very well, apart from feeding me, fast food. I've rolled the edge over so no one gets cut, and I've dimpled it so I can get the bit that I cut off over the top as a lid for when I want to keep the heat in. Now I want the filter to go inside, so we've got about, what is that, diameter of say 250 mil. So the diameter is 250, that means the circumference of the filter will be 250 times pi is 785 mil-ish. And we probably want 100 mil overlap, so that means 790, so let's make it 800 mil. Just happen to have these strips lying around. I want a relatively thick, wide one for the outside. So what's that? That's about 50 mil? Oh, 60 mil maybe. Cool. Now the width of my strip is saying about 9 mil, 8 mil. The depth of the thicknessing jig is 59 mil. So we've got an 8 mil strip, so we want to take it down to, so we want 51 mil. So we've got 19 plus 20, 39, plus 10, 49, and then if we add this in, which I think from memory is either 2 or 3 mil, that should get us our depth. Now, these strips have been taken straight from the saw. You could run them through the thicknesser to speed this process up, but the reason I finish with the hand plane is to remove all the saw marks, to remove all the tool marks, because you get a much better finish with a hand plane finish, much smoother, much crisper, much more durable finish, especially for a finish for wood that you're going to be dunking in water repeatedly. And I find it easier to get that finish from the saw rather than from the thicknesser. The thicknessing finish is very, very smooth, especially with the spiral cutter thicknesser that I use at the men's shed. And so it can be easy to miss a spot with the plane. And you don't see it until you finish the piece, it's made up, it's oiled, or it's in the water, and then the marks from the tools, from the machines, are revealed. So I find it much better to go from the saw, because it's very easy to see the saw marks, and it's very easy to know when you got rid of them all. Now, I don't need this whole strip, but it's easier to do the thicknessing when it's in a long piece. So whenever I'm about to use a piece like to do a project, I'll take a whole strip, and at the very least I'll thickness one side. Oops, all right, we've got a bit of a change in grain direction here. Turn the piece around so we're working with the grain again. Now it's important to get rid of any nicks in the piece, any little defects. And if you do have a place where you have an issue with the grain changing, you've got to make sure you either cut the piece at that point or you really smooth out any tear out, because when it comes to doing the bending in the steam bender, if it's rough, it's more likely to snap. Now here, the piece has saved a little bit of work for us because it's getting thinner. So normally I wouldn't do this. Normally I would do, I'd surface both sides first. But since this is already tapering, it's just an offcut that had a taper on it. And what we do is just slide it underneath there, and that raises this piece out of the trench on an angle. That's looking pretty good. So this bit we can trim off, we'll trim off later. But now we've done one side completely. Take out all the blocks. Clean out all the mess that's in there. And we want to raise this up a bit. So we've got 10, we've got the 2, we've got the 21, we've got the 19. So we'll take the 19 out and add in the 20. Now this is going the wrong way for down here, but the right way for up here. So we'll start at the top, because remember there was that grain change. So down here, the grain's coming up this way, but up here, it's coming out this way. So we'll start this top, we'll miss that little bit, we'll start here, take that down until we get to the grain change, and then we'll flip it. Now when I'm surfacing, what I tend to do is I'll angle the plane one way, sort of lean it over one way, lean it over the other, and then I'll do the middle. And keep on working it until it stops cutting. See, that's at depth now because it's not cutting. It's important to keep the underside clean, otherwise that changes the position of the piece you're working on, changes the thickness you get with the plane. Now we've got a bit at either end down here where the grain's going this way, which means we can't plane that way. And same at the other end where, because of the way the clamping system, the wedge system works, I can't actually do that bit from here. So what we do is we flip it like that, so the wedge is down the bottom. And we take our piece, get it in there, and we're working on the end here. You see there was this change here, it's quite dramatic, but we'll plane all these saw marks off by going this way. But with wedge here, means we've got clean access with the plane at that end. Now this is the actual back side of the taper that I was working on before, and this is why I like to do the tapers last. It can be quite tricky doing them this way, but we'll give it a go. Like this first. There we go. Oh, that's pretty good, actually. That's really good. So we've got a saw mark here and here, and this is the very back of the taper. So very gently, because this is getting very thin. He says being rough as guts. Right, that should do us. There's a little bit of saw marks in there, but if we have that on the inside of the chamfer or inside of the scarf when we do the joining, that'll be fine. Not the way I like to do it, but it's either that or you know, waste that piece. Now I need a saw. Oh, and I need to check the steam. Okay, so we've got a nice little bed of coals in there, but we want more than that. Coals are good for when you want to maintain the steam, but when you want to bring it up to boil, you want it going flat out. So from there to 0, 300. Okay, so that's 700. That means that little dash there will be 800. So 785 is about there. And if we want the scarf roughly the same size as that, we need to come back to here. And this is where I stuffed up, because the 800 already accounted for the overlap in the scarf. So here I added an extra scarf length in, which made the piece too long. Not a big deal, but it did cause some issues later. Get a bit of wood under there so I don't ruin, so I don't cut my jig. Oh, right, I forgot. Now we need we need two pieces for the filter. This is the outside piece because it's wide. The inside piece is going to be a bit narrower, and like it's the same process. It's just it's a narrower piece. So I'll get that done off camera. This bit gets put aside because it's already dressed down. I'll use it for something else, and probably another filter because I want to do this process again. After this at least once more, probably twice more, with a finer filter. So we want to put the chamfer on the side where we're planing this way with the grain, and that's this side. We put our wedge in under here, so there's 90, 80, so about here, so that's where we want to start cutting from. Just sliding the wedge up a bit so I can get a bit more purchase here. The piece is far enough out of the trench, but because it's got a slight curve to it, I'm not cutting. Now what I'd like to do, but I don't have a plane set up to do it at the moment, is actually make this surface concave, because it gets a better fit for when you're putting it together once it's bent. With a concave surface here, and the rivet through there kind of pulls it flat, and you get a nice clean seal here and here. But with it dead flat, what happens is the edges tend to sort of bend up a little bit at the outside. And it's a small thing, but it's annoying. Okay, so just got to clean this up a little bit. Oh, God, we haven't done the edging. Now, can use the jig to do the edging, but I don't care about the edge being accurate. I just want it smooth. So I just do it freehand. Now I do just break the edge, take the corner off with the grain so you don't get splinters. Now this process of rounding it over like that, it's easier with a knife, but I'd have to stop and go and get one. Just running your hands along it carefully. You want to see if there is any splinters, but you don't want to have them digging into you either. That feels good. Oh, and look at that, just in time. Steam. So we'll shove that in there, close the lid. Now that we know that the boiler is boiling, throw in some chunky bits. So that piece is really thin, so it won't take that long with some good steam to get it nice and soft. So probably it'll be ready by the time I've got the other strip ready to go in. Right, well, I've finished the second strip. We've got a good steady stream of steam coming out here. We'll just put this other one in. So get that, oh geez, that's really good film footage. You can see a big black hole. And that's getting flexible, but I want it more flexible. So I'm gonna have some lunch and come back and bend those in a sec. Whoa! Not a snake. See underneath that black barrel there? Barrel. That's not a barrel, it's a bucket. You see there? Oh, come on. There's his tail. Not very good footage, but that was a blue-tongued lizard. One of the reasons I like living in Bendigo is because the herp fauna here is pretty cool. Whoop. Like in Trentham, where I mostly grew up, we had skinks, we had copperheads, we had king browns, red-bellied black snakes, and that was it in terms of reptiles. But here in Bendigo, you got dragons, you got blue tongues, you got geckos, and this one is a beauty. He's going to cause us problems later because he's going to eat the strawberries. But right now, he's just cute. Isn't he, Annalise? It's pretty cool. Yeah, are we going to eat it?
Yeah.
No, he's too cute to eat. But watch it, Annalise. Annalise.
It's not going.
They do bite. Right, I'm a bit concerned that it's not, these aren't going to be pliable enough, because that one's better. But this one, actually this one might be the wood. Just not, it's not taking on, I don't like the way it's talking to me either. Right, you want the wood hot. The hotter it is, the more kind of like a wet noodle it gets. It's still, because it's wood, not a noodle, it's going to be stiffer. So what I'm going to do is throw some more wood on there, get it really cooking, and hang around. And when the steam's pouring out, shortly after then, take it out, get it in the mold, and see how we go. All right, let's try this again. Whoa, okay, yep, that's hot. Hot, 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 hot. Yeah, so it should be a lot better this time. I just need a glove. Well, I found a glove, but then I realized I had one there for exactly that purpose. Well, silly of me. Oh yeah, that's much better. Excellent. Okay, now all I'm doing is just folding this in to the tin. Once we've got it down, we've got it sort of kind of wrapped, then pulling it up, I think I must have stuffed up the calculations, because that is way too much overlap. Not good, not good at all. All right, so lesson one, get your measurements right. Now this is not ideal, because doing it this way with the bucket or a barrel that can deform easily, you end up with a bit of a deformed filter, a bit of a deformed shape. Much better to do it on a mould like that. But those take time to make, and since I only want 2 or 3, this is a quick and dirty way to do it. So it's getting a bit later in the day. We'll see how well this is set. Now as soon as I take it out of here, it's going to go sporing. So I want to take the center, the smaller one out, because getting the size right for that is less of a concern. But getting the size right for this one is a big concern. So just going to mark where that should come up to, which is very sophisticated, I know. And that goes sporing, but not much. That's pretty good. So there's our line. So when I put the first fastings in, I've got to make sure that this gets pushed all the way around to this line. And in fact, to make it a bit easier to get it into the barrel, I want to actually take it past the line a smidge. So I've got this block of wood here. Hold fast to hold it down. Don't want to put too much force pushing down, otherwise it'll split here. So there we go. Let's say there. Right, and there. Okay. So I've got the 3 holes drilled in the outer shell. I'm going to push that forward until it crosses the line. And then hold it in place with a bunch of these clamps. Smack it down. Now, I'll admit it, it's not neat, but it does do the job. All right, now this would be a lot easier if this mesh wasn't all bent to pieces. I'm not going to show you how I did the mesh for this filter because it worked, but it wasn't great. And since I did the filming, I've had a look at a screen that was around 100, 120 years old, maybe a bit older. And there's a fabulous method that I want to experiment with of how they were making them. And I'll do that in another video. So if you don't want to miss that, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification button so when it comes out, or when all my stuff comes out, you'll get notified. Also, this video is getting really long. Now, these little clip clamps aren't enough to hold it, to really pull it in. So I'm going to use something with a bit more heavy duty. There, we've got a nice tight seal. Now I just have to do all the rest. So I changed the technique. I went to using the nails rather than the tapered copper nail. I didn't use rivets. I just clenched them, and I think that's working a lot better. But I'm just finishing off this last one, and with the gimlet I'm going to go much further in because I'm near the edge here. I could have done this with a drill because I'm away from the wire. Hammer that through. Get the file. Well, actually this is a rasp. Just bend it over. Much easier with copper than with steel to do the clenching. And we are done. Now it's not massively neat, I know, but it'll do the job. So we'll fire up the rocket stove again. Not too hot because we don't want to overheat the wax, but the water bath will help, but still not too hot. So the wax isn't melting yet, but it is starting to soften. So I'm just pushing the filter down a smidge. And what I'll probably do now is add a little bit more water. Now when I see the wax starting to melt and come to the top, I'll push that even lower, and that way when the wax all comes to the top, the filter will be below the bottom of the wax, and we should have pretty clear water or pretty clear wax on top. Okay, so it needs to be hotter because need to get it so the wax isn't forming a crust when it comes to the top. So nice and hot. Looks like a few things have slipped past the filter, which has been annoying, but that looks great. So let's look how the wax did. Bit of water on top there, a few leaves. Not a bad haul. This is over 3 kilos of wax. Still needs some work. If you see, it's got a sort of yellow colour here, but it's a very grey colour here. That's because you see there's a lot of fines. You can see the changes in colour where I've scraped it. There's a lot of sort of grey fines that are caught on the bottom. Now, 2 solutions to that. One is to go the finer filter. Like I said, I'd probably have to do it at the start. The other is to use a narrower refining vessel so that those heavier grey fines are concentrated at the bottom of the wax cake in a thicker layer, which makes them easier to remove. So for some uses, I think this is fine. This is good. Like say for the paste that I want to make up for my tools to protect them, mixing it with the camellia oil and some of the pine resin I've been gathering, it's good. For other uses though, like for things like the wraps and stuff Sarah wants to do, I'm gonna have to do some more work on it. But all right, hope you've enjoyed. If anything wasn't clear or you didn't see a detail of how I did something, just ask in the comments and I'll do my best to answer your questions. So catch you around and see you in the next one.